course I did.
And why aren't they here? Why are we here?
Were you in the car on this day?
I think no, because I was out with Mommy and I was going to...
Is your mother guilty or not guilty?
My mommy is Francine.
Where's my mama? Where's my mama? I want my mother. She's in the car. She's rushing.
Kids in the courtroom can say the darndest things and sometimes the funniest. Here's some moments from the smallest visitors to Judge Caprio's courtroom.
I'm going to make you the judge, and you're going to ask him if he has an explanation as to why he was parked on the sidewalk. Okay. You going to do that?
Why are we parked on the spot?
No, not yet. You have to listen to the whole thing first, right? And if
Judge Frank asked this little girl why the case should be dismissed, and she told her mom she was frightened, and there was a man there that might have opened the door and asked her for money.
where your dad is charged with parking on a street up on the east side, and I have three choices. I can fine him $90, I can charge him $30, or I can charge him nothing. What do you think I should do?
30.
Without hesitation, he told the judge to charge him $30. Well, he's a pretty good judge. Besties and criminals. A motorist finds out the cost of being a follower, not a leader. Ariane is with Dana, her partner in crime, and she appears to be the reason why she's in court. They were driving ahead of her with their children in the car, and she had come to visit for their son's second birthday.
I have one.
Just 2-year-old boy, what's his name?
Cole.
You want to say hello to him?
Hi, Cole. We're criminals.
Well, almost.
She was charged with going through a red light on Dave Gavitt Way and Washington Street. It appears that Ariana was following Dana because she didn't know where she was going. Dana's husband was driving and he went on the yellow light, and she was surprised by this, so she tried to follow him and she ran the red right behind him.
Ticket, so it's been funny to watch how nervous she is.
Let me see it once more. In other words, so as he's coming down, let's take a look at it. All right, stop it, Lisa.
that's
Stop
yellow.
it, stop it. All right, the light is yellow,
Right.
and his vehicle is approaching the light.
And why is he going?
Yeah.
He was aware she was following him, hence why she was yelling at him and asking why he did that. But unfortunately, he was free and she was the one in trouble. Well, there's a lesson to be learned here, and that is to not be a follower, but a leader. She countered the judge, saying that rule doesn't work if you don't know where you're going.
Problem with the GPS, right?
I know. Well, yes, but yeah.
A leader would say, I'm not going to go through the red light,
I won't.
right? I'm going to let them go wherever they want to go.
She had other things to say, but the more she talked, she was just making it worse. Judge Frank had to advise her to just be quiet. His father was charged with speeding, and his honesty just condemned him. Judge Frank asked if he'd been driving for years, but he stated that he has not been driving in the U.S. for 3 years, but he has been driving in Africa.
A U.S. license like 6 months ago.
Oh, you celebrated by speeding.
No, I didn't see no speed sign on Harris Avenue, and that was the way from Harris.
He explained that he thought the speed limit was 30 until the cops stopped him and told him the speed limit was 25. Then he was given a ticket and was also told he was driving on 35. He then told the court that the ticket he was given was for 38, but Judge Frank countered him saying it was 35. He further mentioned that he'd seen another 38 on the side and he didn't know what it meant.
Driver's license in Rhode Island, right?
Yes,
And you had to study the book, right?
yes, I did.
Yeah, and then in that book, did you read that unless otherwise posted that the speed limit within the city limits is 25? You didn't read that chapter?
Yes.
He explained that he was with his wife and his 2 children, and he didn't feel like he was speeding because he was just following the cars in front of him, and when the cops stopped, he pulled over immediately without even knowing why he was stopped. His wife affirmed that she was in the passenger seat and she didn't feel like he was exceeding the limit.
He wasn't looking at the odometer. She felt it.
Who else was in the car?
It just the baby.
Oh, now
wasn't-
endangerment of a child as well.
Yeah, and he wouldn't. Well, I mean, he wouldn't go over the speed limit, you know, excessively, knowing that the family was in the car.
I got it.
Well, we can't say that he endangered them. I mean, no man would intentionally endanger his family's life. Judge Frank asked his son to come up to the bench. He then asked him if his father was guilty or not guilty. Well, trust a child not to disappoint. He stated that his father was guilty. We've got to commend his honesty for sure.
It's official. You are guilty.
No, he didn't understand. He doesn't know what he's saying.
Well, you have a wonderful family. I'm going to give you credit for your good driving record back in Africa.
As much as his father wasn't okay with the decision his son made, it shows how well thought out he was. That's a smart kid right there. On to our next case. A daughter insists her mom isn't guilty for running a red light because they had no brakes. She explained she wasn't the one driving, her husband was, but he's at work and he takes care of them, so they have to work as a team, hence why she's in court today.
How many children do you have?
2, 1 on the way.
Oh, are you having a boy or a girl?
A boy.
What do you want your mother to name the boy? Come up here. Come up here.
He wants to talk.
Judge Frank whispered in her ear the name Francesco. Well, that's a nice name, but I doubt they'd want their brother to be named that. Judge Frank asked her what she was going to name the baby, and she stated that they had a couple of options, but haven't settled down on anything yet. The judge then asked her daughter to stay back so she could help him make a decision.
Okay, now we're gonna stop it, Carol.
Wait.
So come here. All right, we have to decide whether or not your mom made a right-hand turn on red. Okay?
That's not guilty.
He showed her the video again, explaining what was going on, and again she stated that she was not guilty. Things were going well until she decided to be super honest. She told the court that her mother wasn't guilty because they had no brakes. How did she even know that? I was hoping her brother was going to have a different opinion, but he didn't. He also believes she wasn't guilty because the brakes weren't working.
Come here, you. How long were the brakes not working?
Not that long.
Oh.
Thank you, Serenity.
2 days?
Yeah.
I think it's more than 2 days. What?
Driving a car with no brakes with 2 children in it is something she definitely shouldn't be doing. She explained she was at home with the kids when this incident happened, and her husband was on his way home from work. Judge Frank asked her daughter if she was in the car on this day. She stated that she was out with her mom and she was also going to her Nana's house.
Was that 3:30 in the afternoon, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, you guys can step down. Inspector Carrigan, what do you think?
Well, Your Honor, I'm not going to argue with those two. They said no.
Having 2 kids that are not only judges but exceptionally honest too is commendable. Judge Frank explained that he was going to take the fact that she was pregnant and the fact that she also has 2 kids into consideration. He declared that he was going to dismiss the case as a baby gift for the new baby. He also stated that he was glad she got the brakes fixed. Sometimes bringing your kids to court might not always be the best option though. On to our next case. A little boy comes to help the judge. His name is Raymond and he thinks he runs the court. Miss Francine's car has been booted. She has 5 parking tickets and a red light violation, which most of it has been paid for. It was an $85 ticket and she paid $60.
You want to tell me about this?
I'm guilty.
Oh, you're guilty?
Yes.
All right, well, we'll see what we can do here. We have to release this. How old is Raymond?
3.
3 years old. He's very smart for 3 years old.
Very. He keeps me on my toes.
He does, huh? Hey, Raymond.
Judge Frank called him to the bench and asked him to help make a decision. He then asked if his mother was guilty or not guilty, but the cute little kid replied saying his mommy was not guilty. He's definitely going to be a good defense lawyer.
It cost you $100 to get the boot released.
I don't have it right now.
No, I know.
Oh.
We'll get to that, okay?
Hi.
And it's going to cost you $50 for the tickets.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
In total, it's going to cost her $150. She stated that she could pay $25, and she also mentioned that she was moving, so the money she had was just for the deposit and the first month's rent. What a good time they picked to give her a boot. Judge Frank stated that the city has paid a private company to place a boot on her car. Of the 5 parking tickets she had, he dismissed 3 of them and also waived the penalties on them as well.
Instead of you paying $225, I'm charging you $50 for the tickets.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. And you have to reimburse the city for the $100 that they have already paid out. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Carlos Leon was charged with disorderly conduct. At 12:30 in the morning, the police were called to Broad Street. They were investigating a malicious mischief call. According to the report, while they were investigating, Mr. Leon started screaming at the police and he wasn't even involved in whatever was going on.
People that are being investigated, don't effing talk to them. They don't effing care. So police tell him back away so they can continue the investigation. He keeps screaming. I can stand wherever the F I want. Now the guy's...
He was drunk, so he started swearing at the police. The police warned him again, but this time a crowd began to form. He continued screaming in the background till the police finished their investigation. At this point, you'd expect they would have arrested him, but they didn't. Then he started swearing again.
He's told to leave or he's going to get arrested for disorderly conduct. He doesn't leave. Finally, they put the cuffs on him. So then he says, well, at this point now, he says, well, after all of this, he says, I apologize. I lost $300 today.
They then told him they were taking him to the station. That didn't seem to scare Mr. Leon or even make him stop. He went further to tell them to better get back up as they didn't know who he was. He also asked them to Google him. He was placed in the rear of the car and was transported to the central station. On the elevator, still agitated, he started screaming at the police.
Screaming at police. I want your effing badge number. I'm going to effing sue you. Then he starts using the N-word. Here's what he says to the police. You got bullied all your life. That's why you need that effing gun and badge, you effing...
We have to give the police some credit. They exerted great restraint. Judge Frank asked if the counsel wanted to be heard. She explained that she didn't have any defense for the case and also stated that her client acknowledges responsibility and has agreed to a no plea and a $50 fine. He then asked Inspector Quinn for a recommendation.
With the $50 fine, I had spoken with counsel previously on that. And, Your Honor, the city does agree with the court that, the behavior and the language was not something that the police should have to tolerate or deal with at that time. But
the judge declared that he was going to accept the recommendation of the prosecution because there was no physical force used, even though there was a threat of physical force, and based on his record, he is capable of exercising that force. Luckily enough for him, Judge Frank is a good judge, and hopefully he doesn't take that for granted. On to our next case. A brother and sister disagree on what their mother should be charged for driving through a red light to get her son at the hospital.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you should be a pro now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, sir, or no, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you here today to help your mother pay for this?
Yes.
She has a red light violation at Eddie and Dudley. He showed the video footage of how it happened and asked her son to pay attention. The light was red, the vehicle made a right turn, and there was a sign that said right on red after stop. It seemed like she was in a hurry. She affirmed that she was. Her daughter walked up to the bench and she said she didn't want to be left out.
Is your mom guilty or not guilty? She guilty?
Yeah.
Yes. You're guilty.
I'm guilty.
You're a good judge.
Judge Frank asked him to ask his mom where she was going, and he did. She stated that she was going to see him in the hospital because he'd broken his arm and damaged his brachial artery, so he had to have surgery. She had left to go home, see her daughter, and get close, and she was rushing back.
Was she in the car?
She was not. She was with my mom.
Oh, so it was just you.
Yeah.
So you weren't endangering anybody else?
I hope not.
The judge stated that he was going to have him make the decision. Since his sister thinks she's guilty, the judge asked what he thought. He replied saying she wasn't guilty. He also stated that she shouldn't be charged at all. Judge Frank went further to ask more questions and told him to be honest. He asked if indeed his mother went through the red light. He said that she did.
Anything because of special circumstances, is that right?
Yes.
Right. Because we do take everybody's personal circumstances into consideration, right?
Yes, sir.
And particularly since you were involved, you think it's really special, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Based on the explanation and the fact that there wasn't any impending danger at the intersection, the case was dismissed.